we're going to look at a new topic called bounds. Now, in these questions, we are always given a rounded value and we have to deduce what the actual value could have been before it was rounded. So when a quantity such as length, height or weight is rounded, an upper and a lower bound are created. The rounded value is halfway between the two bounds, the lower bound and the upper bound. The difference between the rounded value and each bound is called the error. So the difference between the rounded value and the upper bound is just called the error. And the difference between the rounded value and the lower bound is called the error. The error is given by the rounding divided by 2. The rounding is just simply what the rounded value has been rounded to. So for example, 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, to the nearest tenth, to the nearest 1 unit, and so on. You can also see from the diagram that the rounded value plus the error will give us the upper bound, and the rounded value subtract the error will give us the lower bound. Now the error is also the furthest that the actual value can be from the rounded value. So the actual value before it was rounded could be at the very most the upper bound and at the very least the lower bound. So therefore the actual value for the quantity before it was rounded can lie anywhere between the lower bound and the upper bound inclusive. So the point being here that we can never actually deduce what the actual value of the quantity was before it was rounded, but we can certainly narrow it down between two possible values, a smallest possible value for the actual value and a largest possible value for the actual value. Okay, we're going to discuss types of rounding. We mentioned rounding up here. So there's various types of rounding, and it's important that we have an understanding of what these mean. First of all, if the rounded value is rounded to 1 decimal place, this just simply means to the nearest 1/10. And the reason that is because the first decimal place is your tenths column. So if you're rounding to 1 decimal place, that means you're rounding to the nearest 1/10, 0.1. Likewise, if you're rounding to 2 decimal places, we're rounding to the nearest 1/100th, because 2 decimal places is the hundredths column, and that would be 0.01. Likewise, to 3 decimal places, we would be rounding to the nearest 1,000th. And that would be 0.001. And finally, a trickier one would be a significant figure. So for example, to 2 significant figures, or to 3 significant figures, or to 1 significant figure. So when rounding to a significant figure, what that means is you take the unit value for the last column. And I know that sounds a bit vague, but that will become clear when we look at an example involving significant figures. So that's what we're going to do in the following examples. We're going to be given a quantity that has been rounded. So we have the rounded value for the quantity, and then we have to work back and deduce between what possible values does the actual value lie between.